The views and opinions expressed in the Triple C Movement podcast are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Hey, Triple C Movement here to let you know. Talking community, culture, and capital. Black entrepreneurs, black business. Ain't to advance the culture, so don't listen. Yeah, giving you just what you need. Hosted by TC, KC, and Reem and Erica. Elevate, level up, true indeed. Where culture, community, and capital meet. Let's go. Hey, yeah, Triple C Movement. Woo.
You are now listening to the Triple C Movement.
Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the Triple C Movement, where we focus on the 3 C's by offering our opinions on how to advance Black culture, discussing topics that are important to the Black community, and promoting entrepreneurs and businesses to help increase Black capital. It's your boy T, representing peace, love, and positivity.
It's your boy KC. Keep hope alive, keep shining, keep driving. Peace.
Yeah, it's Kareem here. Love y'all. You already know. Let's go.
Peace, y'all. Susie. Pray you have a great day.
All right. On behalf of the crew, I would like to thank our listeners for joining us and ask, please share, like, comment, and subscribe. And also follow us on Instagram at the Triple C Movement. Today's topic is, which Black are you? Which Black are you? The difference between Africans, African Americans, and Afro-Caribbean culture. Africans, African Americans, and Afro-Caribbeans are distinct groups connected by a shared ancestral heritage, but shaped by unique histories, cultures, and experiences. Africans refers to people originating from the continent of Africa, a vast and diverse region with a multitude of distinct ethnic groups and cultures. While the term encompasses a wide range of peoples, the majority of ancestors of the African diaspora in the Americas originated from West Africa and Central West Coast regions. African Americans, persons of African descent who are native to the United States. Their culture has developed within the context of being a largely underprivileged minority group in the U.S. African Americans have a strong connection to their African heritage and have actively explored and maintained aspects of their ancestral traditions within the unique cultural landscape of the U.S., particularly within Black American Christianity. They may also struggle with self-love and self-esteem due to the historical context of slavery and its intentional destruction of spirit. Despite these challenges, African Americans have high confidence due to their experience in competing and succeeding within a large economy. Afro-Caribbeans are Caribbean people who trace their ancestry to sub-Saharan Africa. Afro-Caribbean culture is a blend of African, European, and indigenous influences, shaped by the transatlantic slave trade, colonization, and migration. The Caribbean islands were the first sites of African diaspora dispersal in the Western Atlantic. Their ancestry is largely West and Central African, often with significant Nigerian, Ghanaian, and Beninese ancestry. Many Afro-Caribbeans migrated to the United States and Europe in the 20th century, bringing their cultural practices and contributing to the broader cultural landscape. Afro-Caribbeans generally feel a stronger closeness to Africans than African Americans do. They tend to have higher self-esteem due to longer exposure to family structures and role modeling in communities where they were often a majority. They may have lower confidence than African Americans because they haven't had the same extensive experience competing in a market economy. In essence, while Africans, African Americans, and Afro-Caribbeans share a common ancestry and a history of overcoming oppression, their distinct geographical locations and historical experiences have resulted in the formation of a unique cultural identity and community. And now we're going to delve into the opinions, comments, and ideas. So who wants to go first?
Yeah, I'm going to set it off. Thanks for the great historical perspective. But just to reiterate the point is that we're not a monolith. There's so many differences between us, and those differences should be celebrated. My first question I should say is, when did you first realize all Black people are not the same? I could start with myself. I remember as a young kid, maybe early teens at church, there was this guy that my mom was talking to him, and he said something about you eating the coconut and you going on the banana boat, and I looked at him like, what is he talking about? Like, and he kept saying, I can't understand what you're saying. I can't understand it. And my mom is talking plain English. She's been here for, at that time, over 10 years. And I was like, I thought as black people, we all the same, but that kind of just, it traumatized me. Like, my sister was there, and my sister wanted to beat him up. And long story short, he ended up apologizing and made things good. But that was my first instance realizing that all black people are not the same, and it's real. Anybody got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I got a little something in narrative. I was in third grade actually in Brooklyn, and we have different cultures, Haitians and Jamaicans and everything like that. But when we go to school, it's majority is American, per se at the time. It wasn't as cool as it is now. Back then, it was called coconut heads and all that, like you said it. So I think that's how I developed trying to change my accent and trying to talk. Because, I grew up in a household, just my uncles, my mom, everybody at that time is all Trinidadians, we're all West Indians. So I had that accent in me more than speaking more, Americanized. So I developed to speak to Americanize quick. And then it was funny because it became like it was two different languages to me. Like if I go home, I can easily get into my language, not even knowing that. And then I could go to school and talk a different way. And one time I was with my friend, and I was talking to my mother, and he was like, he looking at me like, yo, I didn't know you talk like that. I didn't know you talk like that. So I remember, some of the kids like calling us coconut heads and all that stuff like that. So that was the first time I could remember it was like two different.
I definitely agree with you. Switching up the dialect to suit,
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. I got you. What about you, E? Well, I'm gonna still have you chime in, even if you're not from Caribbean descent.
I know. I always tell people I'm a fake Trini. I represent harder than most, right? And will pick up an accent, pretending like a mug. Not to be disrespectful, but to show my love for the culture. I would say that, so I'm African American, and I agree with you. It's interesting because there's differences even within the African American culture, looking at regions, right? So my family is Southern, from Texas, and it was very different being a Black African American from the South who also grew up in the North, like just very different ways. So and it's interesting because I also had a Southern accent, right, growing up as a child, and was made fun of all the time by my counterparts, Black and white, talking about they couldn't understand us where we spoke so slow. But the code switching is very interesting, but I didn't realize the differences, or let me say it this way, I didn't realize or appreciate the full diaspora until I went to undergrad, because most people that I had been exposed to, at least to my knowledge, were like Black Americans. And, the most that we may have seen were those who were mixed with Black and white, but not those who were from either the Caribbean or directly from Africa. And so I didn't realize that and experience that until college. And, I will say at college, I was a very open mind, so I was very receptive to experiencing and embracing different cultures. But yeah, no, I grew up for a long time, perhaps, not being as aware of the fullness of the diaspora. So it's been interesting to see as an adult going into it, how I'm experiencing it differently.
Great. TC.
Yes. So my first experience is a little bit different. It's in reverse. So going to school in America since kindergarten, I've always had an American accent. But when I traveled back to Trinidad for the summertime, I would be considered a Yankee. I wasn't the same as all the Trinidadians kids that I hung out with down there. I was different for some reason. I mean, and in a certain sense, they treated me better because I was a Yankee. But I could tell that it was more envy than love. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't really that I was special. It was just that I came from a place that they wanted to be. You know what I mean? And that was when I realized that, oh wait, well, I'm different from, I'm different from you because my parents are Trinidadian, but I'm not. But then when I'm in America now, I'm not American, I'm Trinidadian. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like a, it's kind of like
Caught
a
in the
very
middle.
confusing, yeah, it's kind of like a very confusing situation for a child to be in because you don't really know where you fit in as a first generation American, you know? So that was my first experience. In America, I didn't really have any issues until I kind of became more Trinidadian at my older ages when I, started to get deeper into the culture and into, the music and stuff like that and just became more of a Trini. Then I noticed the difference in America. But when I was younger, the difference was in Trinidad. So that was my experience.
Interesting perspective. Okay,
Hmm.
yeah, so definitely. So I want to talk about myths. There's myths within all different cultures. So, I let me see how I want to phrase it. We could just come up with. I have some myths in my mind, and will express with you. And I guess give me your first few thoughts on it. So the first one is African Americans are lazy. TC, what's your first thoughts?
I would say that that's a myth. That is not true. African Americans built this country. So I would say that's a myth that was given to them when the slave masters wanted more productivity and they had to put a label on what their slaves were, and they called them lazy and do good just to be able to beat them and make them produce more crops. So yeah, that's a myth.
Got it. Definitely.
Hmm.
And have you heard that myth before?
Absolutely. All right. Yeah, I hear it all the time to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
To this
Okay.
day. But the funny thing is we say it about ourselves more than
You ain't supposed to say that. You
like
ain't
black
supposed to say that.
like no, but it's true. But black people too.
It's
Black
right.
people quick to call black people lazy.
Yeah.
You ain't supposed to say that. That's outside.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's just. But I mean, I'm keeping it real. So it is what it is.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
we need to realize that it's a myth and stop, tearing each other down. That's the whole point of
Stop
it. So
perpetuating and repeating.
yeah,
it for kids.
yeah. Because if you know where the origin comes from, then you would know why it's not. Nobody's really lazy. Like, come on. I mean, you know what I mean? Everybody has to do something to survive. So, you might not be as active or as energetic as the next person, but nobody's really lazy. Like, doesn't do anything. Come on.
I think reason why they say that, but especially coming from the Caribbeans, if they coming from the Caribbeans or from Africa, when they come here, they work. Their thing is to say we gotta work to do it. The Americans are already here and born here.
That's what I grew up hearing. Yep.
Right. They don't feel like okay, they're already here. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's more like this their country too.
It's a hustle. They mean it's a hustle mentality, basically.
Exactly. So when you coming from the Caribbeans or whatever, you more like I gotta work. We gotta get this money because we didn't have it like that before. We didn't have the opportunity to just go get a job and just make some decent money. Whereas when you're here and you got all kinds of government advance and government
Programs and stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So that's why they'll probably you hear that myth. I mostly hear it from Caribbean or African descent. That would say the Americans is lazy. You know what I mean? So that's what I would hear it from most of the time. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, people from Caribbean come with nothing and they're able to buy a house and they're able to do all these things, and they look back and some of the African Americans they came with are still on the block or the corner, just but it's like I said, it's there's reasons for everything, so it's not a justified myth, but I can understand.
The one you see, it's just a select few you see. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Everybody,
exactly.
you know what I mean? So,
Yeah, exactly.
It's another tool. It's another tool used to divide and conquer. That's
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's all it is. It's a tool used to divide and conquer, and we have to stop calling each other lazy. Period. End of story. Whether you're African American, or Afro Caribbean, you gotta stop calling your brother or your sister lazy because they're living a different lifestyle than you.
Right.
End of
That's
story.
good.
Yep.
So I'm gonna tell you something, right? Not the other day. I've been hearing this a couple of times. Well, so I would talk to somebody and they'd be like, they hear a little accent in me, and I'm like, where you from? I'm like, well, I'm from Brooklyn, but my mom and father is from Trinidad or whatever. And you know what they would say? Oh, you ain't black. I'm not. So so when I'm like, you Trinidad, you're like, so yeah. So what about skin? So I ain't black. So it's like, okay. Tell the cops that. I wish you tell them that I ain't black.
Right. But the thing is, most like you said, most Americans feel that way. Like most Americans feel like if you're not Native American, like then you're not really black. You know what I mean? You're Caribbean or you're Trinidadian or you're whatever. You're Jamaican or whatever. You're not really black. So it's really really weird. And like I said, divide and conquer. That's all it is.
Yeah, Willie Lynch. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's interesting from the other flip side, right? There's been how many comedic things talking about, oh, you got 5 jobs, you must be Jamaican. You must be Caribbean.
Yeah, that was one of my myths coming up.
All right. Straight up in living color, right? I got 5 jobs and me still want more. So, it's interesting because, like you said, it paints that picture from both sides of if you out here hustling with 5 jobs, what you Jamaican? What you trying to do? Why are you taking up all the work or things of that nature? Versus the other way around, like you're not working multiple jobs. You must be lazy.
You're lazy.
What's wrong with you?
How you got what job? What's wrong with
You
you?
know what I'm saying? How you expect to come up out of situations? You know what I mean?
What job? What the hell wrong with you?
They don't pay enough. We at the same time.
Oh, but hey, I mean, like I said, it's all about how they treated us back in the day during slavery in America, in Africa, and in the Caribbean. It's not like the institution was different in these different places. They treated us that way in all regions, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that we have in common. So we're all gonna have that laziness mentality if we're not doing enough, because they wanted productivity in the mines in Africa, and so they called them lazy when they wasn't producing enough, right? And they needed more productivity for the cane sugar in the Caribbean, so they called them lazy when they weren't producing enough, right? And for the cotton in America, the laziness is something that is universal for all black people. That's the way I feel.
Yeah.
So
Definitely. All right, next myth. All Africans are kings and queens and princesses. Prince and princesses. E, what are your thoughts?
So I've known, no, absolutely. Based on some of my experience, I'm like, hell no. No, it's interesting because there is this, it kind of gets to another point too, and I don't know if you're going to get to this, but I'll bring it up now, is how we've been told as like Black Americans that Africans don't like us, right? Because they think they're better than us. For whatever reason, again, all these various myths and people
or we're lazy.
Oh, exactly, or we're lazy, and they go into their interaction with a person from an African nation with that mentality, and kind of bias, right? But no, I mean, I think that. So I perhaps am not your typical Black American just because I've lived abroad on the continent in multiple countries, and have experienced a wider kind of array of the diaspora. So with that, I'm a little more open-minded to a lot of things and not as naive, but I definitely see how my colleagues are like, or other Black Americans are like, yeah, they over there doing that ooga booga shit. So, it's still and I should apologize. I feel bad even saying that, but like, it's that mentality though is still here. Like,
that's the problem.
Yeah, and it's like they think either they're all super rich, right? Because we have our TV shows like Rich Africans, or they're just so face poor, that they have, save the children flies on their face and begging for money to feed them for just one more day, right? So, yeah, I mean, I don't think that Black Americans think that they're all royalty, but they think it's there's no in between. They think it's either opposite ends of the spectrum, I think.
Definitely. Okay, good. All right, TC, last myth. All people in the Caribbean smoke weed. Bob Marley.
Yep.
That ain't a myth.
Bring the Black Americans into that too. You know what I'm saying?
I think that along with everybody in the Caribbean loves Bob Marley is just something that we got to deal with. It's we can't escape it. And so what if we do?
Yeah, it's legal.
Like, so what?
Preach.
So what?
Preach.
I mean,
Preach.
it's a part of us, whether we do it or not. So, I know it's a myth, but it's also true. That's the way I feel about it. So.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll add another myth to that, if I may, Casey. All Caribbean people drink. Well, nope. Here's another myth that's been told, right? At least amongst other Black American women that I'm aware of. All West Indian men and African men are cheaters.
Ooh. I don't know where they got that one from.
I don't either.
You talk to the wrong man.
No, I agree, but there's like this, perhaps this stereotype that, it's allowed in that culture, and that's just like a broad sweeping acceptance. And I'm like, I don't think we can generalize and say that, but that's the perception that's out there, perhaps. So is that a myth or?
I don't know if it has a little bit of truth to it, because
it's a myth.
Culture, huh?
It's a myth.
No, well, listen, hear me out. In the Trini culture, there's a thing called horning, and it's almost like acceptable that you're gonna get cheated on by somebody else. It's almost a common thing. So is it somewhat acceptable?
It's not acceptable, but
it happens, and it's like, whatever. I'm getting horned. They singing songs about it.
It's a myth because it's a fact of life for every culture and every different racial group. It's not just Caribbean or African men that cheat.
Yeah, I know.
All men cheat. All men cheat. So so that's why it's a myth. I don't think if you say that, Caribbean men might cheat at higher rates than American men, maybe that's possible.
Let's put it in perspective. Men and women.
Okay, yes, absolutely. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
I forgot about that part.
You're right. Yeah. You're right. My bad. Shit, I was just, damn.
Nah, man and woman.
Just telling myself. Yeah, but everybody, women, men, everybody cheats. It's just, all right, maybe it's a higher rate. I would say that's possible. Like that Caribbean men cheat at a higher rate than American men and African men or whatever. But everybody cheats. So,
every race.
Yeah. And I have a myth though. All Haitians do voodoo. All Haitians do voodoo. How about that one? And eat cats and dogs. How we feel about that, man? How we feel about that, y'all? Africans. No, we got Africans to that too, because voodoo is an African origin. So we have to say all Africans and Haitians, and they do voodoo and stuff like that. Yeah. Or practice some sort of how do you say it? Some sort of paganism, if that's what you call it. How do we feel about that?
That's a big up myth, I think. I mean,
because Christianity is not.
I was gonna say it's so pervasive.
It's not our natural culture, not our natural beliefs, right? We all believed in what we believed in back in the motherland, which would follow us to wherever we ended up. So is it really a myth, or is it really?
It's a myth.
It's a myth. Okay.
It's a myth.
It's a myth. It's a myth.
What's that,
Okay.
man?
They
I
just
mean, I
turned
mean,
it
I
into
mean,
something evil.
it might be something that's in it, the culture heavy, but it's not all. You know what I mean? So
Right.
you know what I mean? Because there's people in every island that some kind of has that kind of same religions or whatever. So
Yeah,
it's a
and
myth.
Trinidad they got Obia, and
Yeah, exactly.
in Puerto Rico they got Santeria or whatever it's
Santeria,
called. You
exactly.
know,
Yeah,
they got something in every place. So, but
yeah.
it oils comes from Africa though, right? It all comes from Africa. So it's an African thing, right?
Yeah. And I think people tend to, this is a whole nother topic for another day, but I
Hmm.
think that if it doesn't fit that nice, pretty package of what Christianity looks like and is defined by some,
It's evil.
because it's
Hmm.
evil, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, a lot of things tend to be herbalistic in nature, right? With a lot of practices and or prayers or communing with spirits, right?
Hmm.
And it's just like saying someone who catches the Holy Spirit, are they then evil?
Mm.
Because it's communing with, that's for another day. I'm not going to get into this right now, but it's just something. I don't think that's the case, but I'm just saying that one could easily turn it and say the same thing around Christianity.
Oh, definitely. Because if you look at Halloween, or if you look at Santa Claus,
Hey,
if you look
yo,
at any of that
run
stuff,
it, run the roll, run the roll. Easter Bunny.
exactly. But nobody's
Yeah,
calling that evil, but they'll call I guess
yeah.
burning some incense and praying to the earth evil. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
so. But okay,
Yep.
I just wanted to know how y'all felt about that one. Anybody else got any myths?
I think that was it for the myths.
Okay.
Another question I was thinking about was how do we foster unity amongst our culture? What steps could we take to kind of unify ourselves? Because we're still very much divided. TC.
Um, I think we need to have like a program where everybody goes back to Africa at some point in their life.
That's life changing.
That part.
Every black person in the world has
That
to make
part.
a pilgrimage to Africa, someplace in Africa at some point in their life, and the younger you do it, the better, because
That part.
once you get them there at a young age and they experience certain things there. I've never been, but I mean I know. You know what I'm saying? I know from people who have been and from people who have seen things there or whatever. It's something that I want to do because I think that'll change my perspective on everything, right? So that's what I feel is the first step that has to be taken to to,
That's
to, to build that black diaspora, even make it even stronger.
that's
Yeah.
powerful. I mean, forget Disney World, straight to gospel.
Word.
Real. All right, definitely. I like that. I wasn't even thinking about that, but that's
Mhm.
good. Reem, what you think?
I just think we need to spend more love and understand where we from, and that part. Like I think I agree with T on that. Maybe a lot of us need to go see what's the motherland really about and what's going on over there.
Definitely. Good
Mhm.
point.
I would
Nikki?
add to that though and say that it's not just about perhaps going there, but overall exchange, right? Because to erase some of the biases that have, and unless you experience it, unless you know what it's like, then it's going to continue to perpetuate these misconceptions, right? Or these misnomers about a culture, right? So
Mhm.
as I think it is important that we have like that exchange program where people go to the continent and they experience either a summer there, but also a summer in the Caribbean, right? Because and understanding that there's nuances and differences within each island, within each country on the continent, you're gonna get a little different experience. But that's to show you, like you start off with, Casey. Like we're not just a monolith, right? A, we are an amazing, array of people, like who just have different experiences, different cultures, different influences that shape who we are and what our culture is. And then, as we're talking about people going to the Caribbean too, also coming to the U.S. and seeing the differences there, because like someone who grew up in the Bay Area, I can't relate to shit of what goes on in the Bay. But you want to talk about, Texas or Atlanta or anywhere up here, like in Maryland, I got you. But it's just understanding the differences, though, too, and just having an open exchange and kind of dialogue. So it's almost like we need a school, right? That it's a complete. Each year you're going to go somewhere differently. Still learn the same curriculum, but you just need to experience life in that environment. Because I think that, it gets to the thing, like you said before, right? The perception that Black Americans are lazy. It's like sometimes it's important to see what it's like to be constantly beat down and be told that you're nothing, right? From the moment that you're born, so to speak, versus now you get to go to an environment where you're surrounded by nothing but people who quote unquote look like you. So what is the thing that divides you right now? And then going, looking at other things. And that way it helps us to, I think, become better just citizens of the world.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. Big time. Yep.
Powerful. Definitely some thoughts. All right, so I don't want to. Anybody have any other thoughts? If not, we could come to a conclusion because we hit a lot of good points here today.
I have one. This one is for Reem. Reem, you got an African woman, you got an Afro-Caribbean woman, or you got an African-American woman? Come on. Which one you going with, bro?
Choose wisely, Reem. Choose wisely, Reem. I'm on the phone. Choose wisely, Reem. Fuck the audience. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, I'm going with the word African. That's all in all three aspects.
All three aspects. All right.
Play the safe.
Good save, my brother. Good save, brother.
I was threatened.
Under duress.
I was under duress.
You better plead the fifth. You know what I'm saying?
I like that answer. All right. African always wins. You can't lose with African. All right, so I think that's it. We touched all bases with this one, right?
Yeah, definitely. And like I said before, we're not a monolith. Let's all celebrate and continue dialogue with each other. I love the idea of a school or going back to visit, like an exchange program, especially for the young ones coming up. I think that's a great idea. I wish we could implement or at least attempt to implement that within our homes. Like I said, let's celebrate each other. I bring the curry. My African brother bring the jollof. And my southern brother bring the mac and cheese or the sweet potatoes, and we all break bread and eat.
Amen. Couldn't have said it better myself. That's what's up. All right. So on that note, Dan, thanks for checking in again. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and follow us on Instagram at the Triple C Movement. Until next week, peace and love.
Peace.
Peace, y'all.
Peace out.